It's been a couple of weeks since Mick West, this mega show, appeared on Joe Rogan's Fraudcast. I don't call it a podcast anymore. I call it a fraudcast or a showcast. Whatever you want to call it, one and the same. Just take a look here at Mick West. I mean, this face. I mean, if they had a photo in the dictionary of a show, this would be it right here. This man. And as you see, this is the cover photo, the thumbnail for Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience. And you see Mick West doing the sign of secrecy or the sign of silence. No doubt a Mason. And they're all connected. You know, Joe Rogan, of course, buddy with not only, of course, Alex Jones, but before he was Alex Jones, being Bill Hicks. Now, getting to the point of this video with Mick West. And basically, he commented on one of my videos. I want to show the video footage first. With the video titled Cargo Ship at Sea Proves the Flat Earth with the Nikon P900 digital camera. Let's get right to the footage. As you see, the P900 digital camera zoomed in on the cargo ship. Now, as it zooms out, the ship is basically going to disappear from view. Now, imagine this cargo ship on the side, or say the bottom of the so-called ball Earth. There's no way this so-called magical force called gravity is going to hold it down. Obviously, no way. Now, take a look here as it disappears out of sight. Okay, this again proves we live in a flat Earth. Okay, the ship never goes on the side or the bottom of the so-called ball Earth. Now, getting back to Mick West, he just so happened to watch this video right after it was uploaded. He made a comment, and here's his post underneath my video. He states, that ship is clearly closer than to the horizon. You can clearly see the actual horizon behind it. Try again from the beach. And here's my comment, and a couple others commented as well to his trolling. I stated, you jumped the gun. I show the beach footage at the end of the video. Next time, watch the entire presentation before commenting. And here's the end of the video, basically, where I show this beach footage with again, the same exact digital camera, the P900. Again, this person is ground level on the beach. Someone could talk about, oh, the footage I showed earlier was a higher elevation. Well, what excuse do you have here? This is from ground level. As the guy with the camera pans back, you're going to see that boat and that buoy disappear right here. There you go. Gone out of sight. Not around the so-called ball Earth. It's all due to perspective. That's simple. Now again, this is me commenting on my previous video. Now take a listen from Joe Rogan's podcast, once again, his fraudcast. Take a listen to what Mick West says here. Completely ridiculous.
Something that's, it's a ridiculous claim that's been made for like over 100 years that when things move away from you, they disappear from the bottom up, and if you zoom in, they will reappear. It doesn't actually happen. When you zoom in on something, all it does is it makes the picture bigger, it makes the image bigger.
Complete lies, complete garbage. As I've shown many times with these telephone poles, all the same height. When you take a look, of course, looking down the row, the one furthest away, it looks like the feet, the bottom of the poles are missing. It's just due to perspective. He's trying to deny this. And of course, this is just basically, rendering artwork. And here's an actual photo. Of course, many people have seen this with their own eyes. So this is not an illusion of any type or something we imagine. This is something we can actually see based on science. And science is based on observation experiment. And all this guy does is ramble on and tell a bunch of lies and basically try to deny the flat Earth. Okay, this is what he's paid to do. Okay, let's take a look here as well, as I've shown before in a video, with this boat out at sea. And this is what people talk about. You see first off, you see the flat horizon, okay? Now take a look at the sun. People say, oh, this means the sun is going around the so-called ball Earth. Absolutely not. Again, it's due to perspective. Watch as the P900 zooms in and at the sun, and it basically comes into full view. So what does Mick West have to say about this? Okay, clearly, again, you see the sun above the horizon once you zoom in. Now, again, talking about the occultic aspect of these deceivers, and as I mentioned before, when I first started covering the flat Earth a couple years ago, 2 years ago, I mentioned basically 9/11 was becoming stale as far as a debate. And this is, I'm going to be very honest and very blunt. The flat earth is the truth, but they want this as far as divide and conquer. And I said that many times before. And this is what it's about. 9/11 again becoming stale. Same thing with chemtrails. This is a new divide and conquer. But again, it's the reality, and it needs to be touched upon, because they're trying to hide God, and this is what it's all about with these deceivers. And again, the occultic sign of silence, no doubt Mick West being a Mason. You see Joe Rogan as well, with the grandson of the founder of the Satanic Church, Anton LaVey. And you see the devil horns, you see the 666 on his shirt. Of course, nothing but a piece of garbage sellout. That's all Joe Rogan is. He thinks he's very smart. He thinks he's very clever. And he has a good amount of people fooled. But again, he's nothing but a piece of garbage. And these two pieces of garbage side by side, birds of a feather flock together. Now, I touched upon this before. Again, when it comes to the occultic side, with these puppets, and I mentioned this before with D News. And again, you see the Masonic hand sign with this clown trying to debunk the flat earth. Now, take a listen to this clip, and I'll break it all down as well, as I shown before. Take a listen to this guy.
Looks flat, it feels flat. The logical explanation is the Earth is flat, right?
That's because it is.
Right? We know the Earth is round by observing it closely. If you watch a ship as it disappears over the horizon, the bottom will vanish first, and then the top disappears later.
Now, again, this is what he's talking about, how the ships disappear. But you always see the ship, the top of the ship pointing straight up. If this is around the so-called ball Earth, it should be at an angle, it should be tilted. These ships are never tilted or at an angle, of course, because, again, it's all due to perspective, like I showed earlier with these telephone poles. There's no difference. The poles, you see the top of the poles going straight up, but you see the bottom portion disappear. It's not complex. It's not difficult to understand. And, of course, again, the water is always level. That's why it's called sea level. You never see the curve to water whatsoever. Undisturbed water, of course, when it's moving, it's not going to be perfectly level. But again, you're not going to see a curve to the water. Now, let's take a look here. I find this very interesting with this footage from the Toronto skyline, as you see here. Take a look at this footage, and all you see is flat water as the camera pans to the right. Take a look here. Now, where is this supposed curve to the water? You don't see it. You don't get it. Okay? Now, imagine the perspective. Say, for example, you're in a boat here, and you're looking at, say, a cargo ship all the way here towards the end. Of course, from your perspective, it may appear as it's going around the so-called ball Earth, just like when you look straight ahead. But again, it's due to perspective. From this angle, again, it proves we live on a flat Earth. Where's the curve? Tell me. You don't see it because it does not exist. Okay? Clear as day. Zoom back to the left, and you'll see clear as day again. I mean, if you can't see we live on a flat plane, you're never going to see it. You're never going to get it. You're going to, again, stay on the lie system of the so-called ball Earth. And again, it's called sea level for a reason. Now, getting back to the occultic side, again with Mick West, and like I just showed with these clowns at D News, Discovery News, doing the same exact thing. And of course, they're not doing this on their own. They're instructed to. Just basically hired help. And the occultic side, going back in time, with Hippocrates, the god of silence and secrets and confidentiality. And you see again, it's very clear to see. Once people understand the occult, they'll understand those behind the scenes that are basically putting these puppets in the spotlight. They're nothing more than deceivers. Here you see doing the same thing, going back in time as well. I showed this many times, this one collage with all these puppets, Barbara Bush, Charles Darwin, Kerry, Obama, the whole lot. All doing the same thing. And just like in the music industry, and you see this one clown here, what does it say here? Making noise and influencing people, more like brainwashing people, conditioning people. Give me a break. Now, again, here's some duality when it comes to Oprah Winfrey's Harpo Studios. Of course, Oprah spelled backwards is Harpo for Hippocrates as well. So get your 2-in-1 where Satanists do things in opposites and reverse. And this is what it's all about. Now let's take a listen to this clip here. getting back to the fraudcast, as I call it.
From Japan that takes high-resolution photos of the Earth every 10 minutes, the full Earth from 22,000 miles away.
Yeah, that's the Japanese Himawari 8 satellite.
Yeah.
But there's also there's a US satellite that was just launched last year, the Go 60.
And I showed this before. This is the Hirawami satellite they're talking about in the footage. You could basically move it around like a basketball or soccer ball. Now, again, okay, this is a $700 million so-called satellite. Okay, now let's take a look at this footage here with the daytime moon being zoomed in again with the P900 digital camera. Okay, what a $500 digital camera can do. Zoom in, something real. Okay? With real footage, not some garbage animation that we saw earlier that doesn't pass the smell test. Okay. 238,000 miles away, supposedly, but obviously the moon is within Earth's atmosphere. It's clear as day. Now let's get back to these mega shills.
Spying on you. Yeah, so, when I first heard about the flat Earth theory, obviously I've heard it before. My father, going back, when I was young, he told me that he was a member of the Flat Earth Society.
I find it very interesting he says that.
Your father told you that?
Yeah.
Was he joking around?
Kind of, but he was doing it in a kind of satirical way, ironically. He was doing it because he was saying people are too sure of themselves, and so I'm going to join the Flat Earth Society. He didn't believe the Earth was round.
This guy's just making this up. It's just fantasy. Just, everything they say is nothing more than lies, nothing but liars and frauds.
So it's been around for quite a while, the Flat Earth Society.
Now take a listen here to what Mick West says. He completely screws up, but I think he does this on purpose.
The Flat Earth theory has been around, obviously, thousands of years ago people thought the Earth was round, and then slightly fewer thousand years ago people figured out that it wasn't. It was figured out by the ancient Greeks.
So, again, he says, going back in time, people believe the Earth was round. Now they believe it's flat. So, I believe he said this on purpose. Now, take a listen to what Joe Rogan says here.
Greeks, 3,000 years ago, that it wasn't. And by the...
that it wasn't round?
That it wasn't flat, sorry.
Oh, you fucked it up. You gave up the goose. You said thousands of years ago that people thought the Earth was round, and they realized it wasn't.
Yeah.
You just, right now, you gave them fuel.
That's a quote that's going to go on YouTube.
Fucked up.
That's right.
My I am a shill quote.
That somehow or another we're being paid to say that the Earth is round. The idea that anybody would actually believe it. I've had so many people tweet at me, I know where your checks are coming from, bro. You're a fucking sellout. I mean, sellout. Why would I give... Do you don't think that if I really thought the Earth was flat, if someone thought the Earth was flat, what a revelation that would be. What an amazing discovery. Every scientist would be clamoring to expose this. Every single scientist. The idea that all these scientists who make their name off discoveries, by the way, especially a monumental and provable discovery like the world being flat, somehow or another they would hide that.
First off, all these so-called scientists, they've never been in space. Okay, so-called space. They're just going by what the government officials at NASA tells them. And they can't go against the grain. Now, let's take a look here at this. As I've shown before with Lyman Spitzer Jr., and of course the name Lyman, they play on names. They love the mockery with the Mr. Lyman. And this is the man that was supposedly responsible for the whole Hubble telescope program, where it states here under this article, where it states here, Lyman Spitzer Jr. was the first person to propose the idea of placing a large telescope in space, and was the driving force behind the development of the Hubble telescope. Now, some very interesting connections when it comes to Lyman Spitzer Jr. Let's take a look here. 1947, at the age of 33, just so happened to be the age of 33, Lyman Spitzer Jr. was appointed chairman of the Princeton's Astrophysical Science Department. Now, taking a look at this article from the Business Insider, they talk about the 13 most powerful members of Skull and Bones. Okay, this is how they control the Matrix. Okay, take a look here. You first see George Bush. You see others here. William Taft, former president. Walter Camp. Take a look who you see here. Skull and Bones member Lyman Spitzer. Okay, give me a break. And it says here as well, after 44 years, NASA launched the Hubble into space. They got their occultic numbers here, the 33, the 44, and of course, Mr. Skull and Bones himself, Lyman Spitzer. And of course, in society, if you are a teacher, a professor, you go along with the program. You do not deviate. You teach directly out of the school textbooks, and that's simple. If you go against the grain, you are out of a job. So, and these are the people that establish what we're supposed to believe. And this is the rigged system we live in, the Matrix. Take a listen here as John Kerry and George Bush, of course, two former Yale graduates, supposed graduates, of course, going against each other in the so-called elections in 2004 as they are questioned by Tim Russert.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on. I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest. Number 322? You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us? Not much, because it's a secret. Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code? I wish there were something secret I could manifest. 322, a secret number? There are all kinds of secrets.
So, again, it goes to show, when it comes to these politicians, when it comes to these so-called top scientists, just like I showed earlier with Lyman Spitzer Jr., the game is rigged. Agents in place, that's what it all comes down to. Just like I mentioned earlier with Joe Rogan and Mick West. And you see the occultic hand sign with Mick West. And of course, you see here Joe Rogan with Anton LaVey's grandson, the founder of the Satanic Church, side by side, of course, doing the devil horns, sell out through and through. And that's what it all comes down to, clear as day. Now, getting back to the fraudcast, as I call it.
And then the big question is, why would the government say the world is flat? I mean, why would they, in any way, why would they rather hide the fact the world is flat?
Simple, to hide God. It was science and the whole Big Bang Theory. This supports evolution as well.
What motivation would anybody have to show that the world was round? It would be pretty fascinating if we lived on this flat disk and everybody else throughout the universe was on a planet.
What are we talking about? Other people in the universe? Now you're becoming a conspiracy theorist. There's no evidence. There's no proof of other people in the universe. Okay? So he talks about he wants to see the ice wall. I want to see these people that you say live in, part of the so-called universe and other so-called planets that are nothing more than lights in the sky within the firmament.
We'd be like, whoa, what's going on? And there's a weird thing that's going on with some of these flat earth people where they're linking this to a sign that we are in some way special, that we are the chosen ones, and that we, and some, it keeps going back to Genesis, and that, that we are the children of God, and that creation is true, and that evolution is a lie.
Evolution is a lie. Okay, what happens here with your relatives, Joe? These are your relatives crossing the road. They forgot to evolve. Let's take a look here. If these are your family members, look at this fat little guy with this tummy. This is what is it? This your family members that forgot to evolve? Give me a break. Okay? We have always been humans and always will. Gorillas have always been gorillas and always will be. Okay? This whole evolution garbage. Give me a break. 100%. And getting back to the whole flat earth versus ball earth. I mean, this is obvious. These two photos, obviously CGI, nothing but garbage. But you cannot tell Joe Rogan or anybody else that believes in the so-called ball earth or anything else. This doesn't mean anything to them because they don't care about evidence or proof. They want to believe what they want to believe. Now let's get back to this Joe Rogan fraudcast here.
When you see, they don't believe satellites are real. When you see how many satellites we actually have, that's what's really fucked. It's not that there's no satellites.
There's too many satellites.
There's way too many.
They can start bashing into each other, and then we'll have no more satellites.
There's thousands of them up there, and they have to time, space flights. They have to time space flights based on whether or not they're going to hit these satellites, or space junk, or some of the stuff that's been ejected from various rocket trips.
Yeah, right. Now let's take a look here. This is part of the brainwashing from this child's book from school. It says here, the Earth is not like this. And they show the flat Earth. Of course, they don't show the ice ring. And this is supposedly the Earth we live on. And it's a complete joke. Again, the ship sailing on the side of the ball Earth. Why don't we get any video footage from the ISS of this happening? ISS is only 220 miles up, supposedly. And you don't get any type of footage of any cargo ships or anything like this whatsoever. Now, give me a break. Now, again, this is This is pure mockery in plain sight. This is what we live on, more or less. And of course, the ice rings removed. And this is complete garbage. Okay, this, how gravity magically holds down water on the sides and the bottom of the ball earth, but somehow planes don't get pulled down. Birds don't get pulled down when they fly. Gravity is magic. It's selective. It selects water, but birds, butterflies, bees, they can fly over, land in water, no problem. Give me a break. Now, getting back to satellites, this is what I want to get into. Joe Rogan and Mick West talking about satellites. All we get is this garbage, this CGI animation type garbage. No real footage. Now, touch upon again the occult of the Sky Dome in Toronto, Canada. And you see the sun within the D of the dome itself, which is a form of mockery because the sun and the moon are within the firmament or the dome. That's why the sky is blue. The water's above, like the Bible states. Now, take a look here at this occultic shot of the 3 pentagrams. You have the 2 upside down pentagrams and the 1 right side up. Give me a break. Now, take a look here again when it comes to the Sky Dome. Find it very interesting at night. And the dome is blue, just like the sky is blue from the waters above. Now, very interesting concepts again here when it comes to now it's called the Rogers Center. Okay, I find it very interesting, the Rogers Center, when it comes to numerology, so just so happens to be the number 66. All about masonry and how they love their numbers with the Rogers Center. Another example how they love their numbers with the Rogers Building in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, being on 333 Bloor Street. Again, you get your 333, and you get your 66. Again, all about masonry, as I show many times with this Grand Sovereign Commander, the dual 33s for your 66. Now, something I found very interesting, a form of mockery, of course, the Rogers Center now, of course, called the Sky Dome then. Take a look here. What do you have here with this one building for Rogers Communication, Rogers Cable? You have the flat earth dome in the firmament. Interesting construction to their building, and of course, the occultic logo as well. Now, as I shown before, this is how they love to mock. And one thing I want to mention too is when I first started covering the flat earth approximately 2 years ago, I received a message from someone that used to work for Rogers. This is the largest telecommunications company, internet service provider in Canada. And he told me he did undersea fiber optic cable laying. And he says, when he used to work for Rogers, he said, we owned sports franchises, but we do not have a single satellite in space. So how does their telecommunications system operate without satellites in space? And by the way, I believe it's the Toronto Blue Jays that the Rogers Communications owns, and I believe it's the Toronto Raptors as well, and some other franchises. But nonetheless, these sports franchises cost a lot of money, but they don't have a single satellite in space. And it's all about these fiber optic cables. And this is how basically all of our so-called GPS, cell phones, internet, this is how it all works. In the ground towers, of course, above ground, and they just bounce off each other. This is how it works. It's not from satellites in space. Satellites in space, you never see one because they don't exist. And if you did, when you take a look again, let me get back to that footage of the moon during the day or at night. You never see a single satellite in front of this moon that's supposedly 238,000 miles away. Why don't you see any? They don't exist. You never see a so-called satellite or ISS pass in front of the moon. Because, again, they simply do not exist. Now, let's take a look at this footage to verify what I'm saying.
We never stop hearing about how the internet's in the cloud, but really, it's in the ocean. About 300 undersea fiber optic cables are responsible for 99% of international data traffic. It's basically the same way we connect to each other in a single country, except underwater instead of underground. They transmit PewDiePie from Europe to America, and they connect stock traders in New York and London. And these cables, placed by private companies, are the backbone of the internet. But if you held one in your hand, it'd be no bigger than a soda can. There are just a few layers of protection from the water, including petroleum jelly. Yes, your internet is covered in Vaseline. They're vulnerable to earthquakes. At least a few times, confused sharks have bitten them. But many cables are beneath sea life because in some places they go as deep underwater as Mount Everest is high. Ships lower a plow that digs a tiny groove in the ocean floor, lay in the cable, and it's naturally buried by sand thanks to the ocean's current. And that process, it's both stunningly simple and mind-blowingly complex, is responsible for making the internet a truly global network. It's an idea that's audacious and crazy, and you think it has to be cutting edge, and it is, but it's also been going on for 157 years. Electric telegraphs have been around for a long, long time. Experiments in the early 1800s connected two ends of a garden using a clock that revealed letters. Then they moved on to two neighborhoods to help signal trains, and then multiple cities thanks to a network of railroad lines. Underwater submarine cables were an obvious next step, so they played around. Instead of petroleum jelly, the first ones were coated with exotic tree sap to protect them from the water. And though the undersea cables came in spurts, one of the first ones was knocked out of commission by a fishing boat. By 1858, they reached around the Atlantic and across the world. And that's how it's kind of gone since, laying cables that circle the Earth's oceans. The cables are unwound from the back of a ship, sink to the ocean floor, and the world is connected in speeds measured in milliseconds. There are ideas to bring the internet above sea level, along with cell phone towers and balloons lifted by Google. But for speedy international travel, undersea cables are still where companies like Facebook and Google place their bets. That's because the best way to create the cloud is still by going under the sea.
Getting back to the 100% mockery when it comes to flat Earth with the firmament, the dome, in plain sight. Okay, as I showed before with the so-called Boston Globe, again, the same exact construction. And this is nothing more than mockery. Called the Boston Globe, and they show the flat Earth with the firmament and the black sun symbolism. Same thing here as well when it comes to telescope.com, located in Cupertino, California. You get your CC for 33, you get your flat Earth with the dome above the flat Earth. And of course here the logo itself, looking through the telescope, and they show the flat plane, the flat Earth. Okay, another example here when it comes to Star Wars and George Lucas being an occultist, part of the club, you know, R2-D2 beneath the dome. This is what we live under. And this is, again, 100% mockery. You think it's just a coincidence? For all you coincidence theorists out there, take a look here at Lucasfilm, George Lucas's Lucasfilm Limited. And you have the dome and the sun and the moon underneath. And limited, because we're limited underneath the dome. You know, it reminds me of Alex Jones, and he calls it the so-called prison planet. Okay, this is more or less the whole entire concept right in front of millions upon millions of people's faces, and they don't get it, they don't see it. And also Lucasfilm being 33 in numerology. More flat Earth connections when it comes to the music industry in Hollywood. It seems like everybody knows the Earth is flat except the general public. Just take a look at this screenshot from this music video by Korn. The song is called Undone. First thing you'll notice is the Scottish type kilt, and of course a reference to Freemasonry. Again, always in plain sight with their symbolism. Now let's take a look here at the actual video itself, and you're going to see some pretty interesting stuff. Before I actually show that, let's take a look at this Bible verse from Job 37:18, where it talks about the firmament being strong and as molten looking glass. So when you watch music videos like this one, in the back, this is the firmament being broken. This is a mockery of God's creation. Of course, the firmament itself. This is how they do it. The people behind the scenes, these are Satanists that are in Hollywood and the music industry. This is how they love to mock God. And millions upon millions of fans. Last time I checked on YouTube, 54 million views on this music video. And the 99% or more have no idea what this is all about. They just think it looks cool. You know, this music sounds cool, but they have no idea what's taking place. And again, this is just a form of mockery. And again, I understand the video concept, the lyrics for this song. This is devised by people behind the scenes. These singers, This whole entire band, the people behind the scenes, they look for people with talent, and they shape them and form them to what you see here in this entire concept. And for those that are new to my channel, this is the firmament. This is basically the dome above us, as mentioned in the Bible. The sun and the stars are within the ice ring that goes around the world. Basically, Antarctica is an ice ring, the edge of the earth. Now, more mockery, this time with the music video from Smash Mouth, Walking on the Sun. Same concept with the dome. The two women inside. Again, understand, they don't just devise this out of thin air. People behind the scenes. Again, these people have no clue. It's just the people behind the scenes that devise the music videos. These are occultists. Now, taking a look at Metallica with the concert they had in Antarctica, or supposedly they had in Antarctica. Who knows? And with this article from Rolling Stone, talks about Metallica play a dome in Antarctica once again. So, again, this is all about mockery. Here's an external look of the dome they played in. It reminds me of a child's playground. They have the dome as well. Same exact concept. Again, it's all about mockery. Now, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. People see a preview to this movie. Right before it's released, they want to go see it, but they never consider the concept of these type of movies. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. What is this all about? Where do they come up with this concept? And again, it's all biblical with the flat earth concept. Here is the dome, and beyond the dome is heaven. The waters above the firmament than heaven, as stated in the Bible. And I'll get to this in a little bit as well. Getting back here again to Mad Max, and understand the people behind these movies and these concepts. These are the Freemasons, as I shown before. The square and compass and the black robe, all about masonry. Get a closer look here, and there is your square and compass. Again, these are the so-called enlightened ones, the Freemasons. More people know them as the Illuminati. It's just a cover for Freemasonry. And again, the entire concept of the thunder, the reason thunder echoes, there's a dome above us. That's exactly why thunder echoes. Now, taking a look at Werner von Braun, former Nazi and head of NASA rocketry, going way back in time. Here's an image of Werner von Braun at the Kennedy Space Center. Looks like he's getting all excited doing the Nazi salute. Take a look at his gravestone. Out of all the Bible verses, take a look at what he has here. Psalms 19:1, where it states, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." Now, why would they have this on his tombstone? Of course, as I showed before, the Bible cosmology, the firmament is the structure above the atmosphere, conceived as a vast, solid dome. So, again, just another form of mockery, and that's what they're all about. Now,
and God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven.
In 1931, Auguste Piccard became the first man to reach the stratosphere. Decades later,
Pictures, steroids, Santa Claus, kicks and deals. It's a long fly ball going back. And the ball shatters the sky, bringing the ocean itself down into the stadium. Oh, Simpson just broke this dream's reality wide open. Groundskeepers are trying to put on the tarp, but it turned into a manta ray and stung them all. Now we'll be right back.
And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven.
Just like I shown before with this quote from George Lucas, why is the public so stupid? Okay, this is a complete insult, because these are the so-called enlightened ones that know the reality of this world, and the public just goes along with whatever they're told. They don't think. They just believe whatever they're told. That simple. Now, talking about stupid, take a listen to what Joe Rogan says here. This guy has
1,000 feet in the air.
Absolutely no idea what he's talking about.
How huge the Earth actually is. And you get this little image of a plane at 30,000 feet, and then the dot of the plane is represented, and the amount of distance between the Earth is in perspective. Yeah. And then you see how enormous the planet is. And it's just, you're dealing with something that's so big, it's almost, it feels like it's flat. It feels like it's flat because it's enormous and you're tiny.
That's a huge issue with people, is that they don't really understand the scale of the planet, and they don't understand how little it actually curves.
Yeah.
There's a road.
These guys, again, they're just basically speaking very vaguely. They don't give any details of the size of the so-called ball. Let's break this down right now. And these are the official numbers of the so-called ball Earth. Less than 25,000 miles in circumference. Okay, the diameter, of course, from one end to the other, less than 8,000 miles. Now take a look here at the supposed radius of the Earth from the core to the surface, less than 4,000 miles. And with these numbers that were given, basically the curve is pretty drastic, pretty quick when you break it all down. I want to show this footage as I've shown before with this weatherman in Chicago talking about how you can see the Chicago skyline over Lake Michigan. Take a listen.
This photo, Grandmere State Park, this is from Joshua Nowicki, and what you're seeing here is a mirage.
Absolutely not. A mirage is inverted. They're just basically covering up the flat Earth. You see the flat plane, and of course, from 60 miles away, as I stated, with all the numbers we're given, this whole entire skyline should not be viewable. He even states it himself. Take a listen.
We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline. Very interesting. Here's what's happening. This is a good example of a superior mirage. So Joshua was on the Lake Michigan shore. He was looking towards the west, and Chicago's beyond the horizon.
I want to stop right there. That's very important. Okay. Joe Rogan says the Earth is so huge, it's so vast. Basically, you would not be able to see, the curve because it's so big. Talking about a plane being a dot in the sky compared to the Earth. And this weatherman's even saying you're not supposed to see it because of the curvature of the Earth.
Not be able to see it. However, with the right conditions, we have an inversion. We have cold air near the cold lake water and some relatively warmer air above it. This will bend the image of that skyline back towards the viewer. And so typically we would not be able to see this. This image would be viewable from much, much higher in the sky.
So basically what he's saying, it's, again, nothing but a mirage. In this goon, this clown, Joe Rogan, doesn't know the difference between his butt and a hole in the ground, trying to basically debunk the flat Earth. Now, showing this guy, this piece of garbage, knows absolutely nothing what he's talking about. Let's take a look here as well.
They have the sun on one side and it's illuminating half the Earth.
Yeah.
And the way it's curved like that.
They think the sun's way closer too, right?
Yeah, they think the sun acts like a spotlight. But he's looking at that. It's not acting like a spotlight. He's illuminating all of the ice wall.
Where's the ice wall?
He doesn't even know where the ice wall is. This idiot talks about the ice wall all the time. He doesn't even know this is the ice wall. It has to be pointed out by Mick West. Give me a break.
There's the white stuff around.
Oh, that's the ice wall?
Oh, yeah, that's the ice wall?
Yeah, cool. Which is actually, just a Antarctica stretched into this project.
Joe Rogan, he must be playing stupid. He talks about where is this so-called ice wall. He never looked at the flat Earth map, this model. Give me a break.
Why doesn't one of those dickheads get in a boat and take a photo of that wall?
Yeah, talking about photos, and all we get are these fake, phony, baloney photos that he never made a comparison on from 1978 to 2012. These are the supposedly only 2 photos we have of the so-called blue marble that we have after all these years, all the trillions of dollars spent with NASA. But of course, Joe Rogan, the shill himself, will not question that. That's his job. And he's playing stupid here. No doubt whatsoever that he's playing stupid and says, where's the ice wall when it's clearly shown on the map itself. Let's continue on here.
The distances between places in Australia don't work.
Is that the flat Earth
Yeah.
map?
Yeah.
He's saying again, is this the flat Earth map? What are you talking about? So he's either playing stupid or just doesn't know what he's talking about. And it could be a little bit of both. I'm not quite sure. But he's paid to shill. In this case, he's not doing a very good job. He doesn't even know how the flat Earth model is. And of course, all the globe is the flat Earth just wrapped around using the flat Earth model. That's all the globe is.
That's the flat Earth map, and that's Australia. And Australia looks nothing like that. And if you lived in Australia, you would know it looks nothing at all like that.
Yeah, how would you know if you live in Australia? You've never been in space. How would you know how Australia doesn't look like that? And I'm not saying this map is 100% accurate when it comes to the flat Earth. We don't know. We don't know. But for sure, we do not live on a spinning ball traveling 70,000 miles an hour through space. Okay? That's simple. We don't know the exact size, exact dimensions of the bodies of land. Okay? That's perfectly clear.
It's just hilarious that there's so many versions of this. It's hilarious that there's so many people who have taken the time in front of a computer to create this flat Earth map and put this ice wall. And the idea that, how do they know it's an ice wall? Like, where's the pictures?
There's pictures of ice shelves from, like, Antarctica.
It's all you need. And that's exactly what it is. These ice walls, that Mick West is talking about. Let's get back here to the map itself. That's all you have here. Anywhere you go, if you're in, say, California, you go all the way west, you're going to hit the wall. You're going to hit the ice wall wherever you go.
It's hilarious that there's so many versions of this. It's hilarious that there's so many people who have taken the time in front of a computer to create this flat Earth map.
And all these maps, I want to touch upon this as well. All these maps these are nothing new. All these maps were created many, many years ago. I'll get into that in a little bit. And again, Joe Rogan's talking like these maps are something new created by flat earthers recently. Give me a break. This one map here, this Gleason's map from the Boston Public Library, dated 1892. Take a look here. This is nothing new. You see here also the stamp, Boston Public Library. Get a little bit of a close-up. If I can move this around. Actually, let me do it this way. You see the Boston Public Library? Again, the ice ring, the ice walls that surround the Earth. Okay? And this is, again, you talk about flight paths. When you fly from Johannesburg, South Africa to Australia, you're basically, it's a straight line. You don't fly from so-called one tip on a globe from southern South Africa to, say, Australia. You go over. There's no shortcuts, but this is the path you take. Just like when you fly from Santiago, Chile, same thing. You're just flying over land. This is the direct path, 100%. Now, talking about how the sun and the moon operate over the flat Earth, shows it on the map as well. Here's the June solstice, and this is, of course, the illuminated or lighted area is the sun's path as it circles. Actually, this is the way it goes going from east to west, as you see here. And here's December. The seasons change. Basically, when the sun and the moon circle above the flat Earth, just like a clock, just like a wristwatch, they basically shift in and out, and this is what creates seasons. So, something else I want to point out as well, what you have here, I haven't seen anybody else point this out, with this Library of Congress. This is a government website, of course, showing the biblical flat Earth in the model. Okay, Polaris, the sun and the moon. Read all the details here. Again, this is a government official website showing the flat Earth model. And all the details here. You can scroll down, look at all the different maps. And I found this one pretty interesting as well. Again, from the same website. This was created by an American Syrian man. I find it pretty interesting. All the details. This goes way back to 1920. And here is the back of the map. Again, this is Get a little bit of a close-up here. This is a Syrian-American man. And he goes into all the details. You can look this all up, read this all yourself. And his name is John Abazayed. And I find it very interesting, all the details. And you see, of course, making fun of the ship being upside down, a boat being upside down, and all the breakdowns as well. And again, I can't say it enough. This is on a government website. Find it very interesting. Nonetheless, getting back on topic with Joe Rogan and the goon Mick West. Nothing more than shills, nothing more than basically part of the divide and conquer. And of course, as I mentioned before, Joe Rogan wearing the shirt, ball or a shill. And Mick West, without a shadow of a doubt, nothing more than a government agent, nothing more than a shill. And again, I want to stress this. The flat earth is the truth, but this is another form of divide and conquer. They want to keep us distracted. And I know that. I still make flat earth videos, but I do understand what they're trying to accomplish. Keeping our eye off the so-called ball. This is what it's all about. But again, I still cover this because this is the truth, but I also understand their methods. And their method is, once again, divide and conquer. Just like they're doing right now with flat earth, 9/11, chemtrails, all the hoaxes and setups throughout the media with these fake shootings, these fake terrorist attacks. So this is how they control us, But again, once you understand their methods, it's not going to work. It's not going to work whatsoever. But do not fall for their games. And definitely, for those that are new to the whole entire concept of the flat earth, I have many, many videos on the topic. This is basically just the tip of the iceberg. If you want to take a look at my other videos on the topic. And also, there's many others, of course, online as well, on YouTube specifically, that have made videos on the topic of the flat earth.